Sounds good to me. Hey, Clara. I'm going to use this the rest of the day. Are we going to move the flowers too?
Retake.
Yes, Val.
So we're just waiting on the assembly tech side to get their stuff in order. And I think folks are clearing some space in person at the KS MoCA library so that people in person there can, also participate. So just bear with us.
Okay. Hello and welcome everyone. This session is an invitation to rest, which is co-facilitated by artists and cultural organizers Clara Takarabe and Marina Lopez. Together, they will use clinically designed improvisatory music and movement to help facilitate an opportunity for you to pause and rest. Without further ado, I will pass it off to Marina.
Thank you, Olivia. Hi, everyone. Welcome. It feels so exciting to go after Justin, who's also my partner. For those of you who don't know, he just did his grad lecture. So super sweet to get to transition into this space now. My name is Marina or Marina Lopez, whatever feels good. I use she, her pronouns. I'm currently a master's student at Portland State University's Art and Social Practice program. That is the program that is co-hosting with KS MoCA this amazing assembly conference of socially engaged art. And I'm really excited to be here with all of you today. It's been an absolute pleasure, like such a dream to get to collaborate with Clara on today's offering, and she'll introduce herself in a moment. But I want to share just a little bit about my background and how this session came to be. So I'm a dancer, a massage therapist, and a cultural organizer who works to grow the solidarity economy movement through education and advocacy. The solidarity economy is an economy that's based on care, cooperation, regeneration, and pluralism. That's the simple short answer. And I use all of my faculties as an interdisciplinary artist to create opportunities for radical imagination and embodiment as a way to build community and practice what liberation can feel like, even if it's just for a moment. And so part of how this session came to be was through this experience I had in the last 8 months of navigating my first year of grad school, a new job, a growing business, all while healing from a concussion. And in reflecting on my experience and mapping its ebbs and flows, I can see that it's really akin to a grieving process. And actually, like, it's not even akin to it. I was and still am grieving for the violent ways in which these systems of oppression, things like white supremacy and colonial capitalism, have extracted from our bodies as they have extracted from nature. Grieving for the dislocation of rituals of regeneration and rest. Grieving for my parents whose bodies have endured such different relationships to rest. And grieving for myself for all of the ways I have denied myself rest because I've been so conditioned, like so many of us, to believe that the measure of my worth is in what I produce. So an invitation to rest was an invitation that I made to myself when I had really no other choice but to untether from the addiction of hyperactivity and productivity. Really asking, what does it mean to just be instead of do? And I'm interested in what is possible when we remember the future by embodying artifacts that root us in cultural practices and rituals of care, cooperation, regeneration, and pluralism. And that is what I hope we can do today together in this space of exploration and experimentation. So I'd love to pass it over to Clara to introduce herself. Thank you.
I'm very excited to be here. I learned a lot by preparing for the Social Practice Assembly. I met Marina through our mutual involvement in solidarity economy and heterodox economics, and what that means for visions of the just society based in art, care, labor. I am a neuroscience researcher at Northwestern's Music and Medicine program, and I am also a violist and I play in the Chicago Symphony.
Beautiful, thank you. Yes, I didn't mention Claire and I met through my work, for those of you who know, with Art.coop, an amazing cultural organizing project that centers the ways in which artists and culture workers are growing the solidarity economy. Again, using all of our skills as artists to imagine this future that's possible, and actually creating tangible physical manifestations of that within their communities. So the first part of our session is going to be a segment of movement. So I want to invite you to, if you can, if you feel safe and comfortable doing so, standing up in your space, and finding, if you're in a room with other people, finding a space for yourself to move in. Good. And if you want to close your eyes for this first part, you're welcome to. If you want to keep them open, that's totally fine. I'll give people a moment to get settled. So as you stand, I invite you to feel your feet on the ground, observing how the weight is distributed. Is it more in the front of your feet? Do you feel more heavy in one foot than the other? Moving that scan, that observation up your body, feeling your knees, feeling them stacked over your feet, feeling how your thighs are supporting your kneecaps, moving up to your pelvis, your hips, feeling up your spine, each vertebrae, up one on top of the other, up into your shoulders, your arms, feeling your neck, and finally up to your head. And just noticing there may be judgments that come through or stories about those things, and that's okay. You can see them, say hello, maybe explore them, and move on a little. On your next inhale, breathing fully into your belly, bringing your breath up into your rib cage and then up into your chest. Really full. On your exhale, reversing that. So releasing the air from your chest, your ribs, and from your belly. Kind of like a jellyfish. Inhaling through your belly, ribs, chest, exhaling fully when you're ready. And one more breath, just like that, really full. And when you're ready, I want to invite you to begin moving in whatever way you feel called to. If your eyes are closed and you want to keep them closed, please feel free to do so. If you want to open them and find a soft gaze, you're welcome to do that. And if folks who are on Zoom want to keep cameras on, you're welcome to. It's up to you. This is an exploration for yourself. And as you move, feel free to experiment with tempo. So moving really fast or moving really slow. Experimenting with your levels. How high can you go in your space and how low can you get? You can even jump. And exploring your space. Don't be afraid to move around to different corners. Maybe it's a room you've never been in. Maybe it's your living room that you spend many, many hours in. But See how you can be curious and playful in this space. And if you are moving around and you're with other people, maybe open your eyes. Good. And now I want you to start leading the movement with your head. So see what it feels like to have your head be the leader in the movement. Where does it take you? What do you feel in your spine and your hips as your head begins to lead the movement? Good. And in a moment, I'm going to have you pause in a shape. So keep moving, leading with your head. And then 3, 2, 1, pause. And hold it there. Inhaling in. On your exhale, beginning to move again. In this next segment of the movement, I want you to see what it's like to lead the movement with your hips. So just like you did with your head, what does it feel like to initiate and lead your body with your hips through your space? Again, just being very curious and playful. Good. And in 3, 2, 1, pause. Breathing in. On your exhale, continuing to move. This time, I want you to start leading the movement with your feet. It might mean balancing on one foot. It might mean using 2 feet to explore. Just being more conscious of how your feet feel when you're moving, supporting your body. Good. Don't be afraid to move really fast through your space or jump. What does it feel like to bring your body into the air? How do your feet feel when they come back to the ground? What does the rest of you do when your feet land? How does it come up your legs into your hips? And in 3, 2, 1, pause. And keep moving. This time using all of those, your head, your hips, your feet, going back and forth, playing with where you want to lead the movement from. Good. And making a really big movement, making really, really big movements in your space. And 3, 2, 1, pause. Inhaling. Exhaling, keep moving. This time, making really, really small movements. Your small movements could be really fast, or they could be really slow. And back to free movement. Good. And 3, 2, 1, pause. Take a deep breath in. And exhaling, finding your way back to standing. And if you can, close your eyes and just observe. What is your breath doing? What sensations are present in your body? I want you to imagine a small string on the top of your head that someone is gently pulling up. And the motion translates all the way down your spine, down to your tailbone, creating this really feeling of being long. So you have this very strong skeleton with the flesh around it, soft and relaxed, allowing gravity to do what it does. And as you stand there, I want you to become a curious observer or remain a curious observer. Just notice the areas in your body that are active to support this action of standing. What are your toes doing? Your hips, your neck? What does it feel like to return to this simple gesture of our humanity? To be in this condition of standing. This pause, which from the outside may look like stillness or inactivity. But what you'll find here is that there are actually all of these flourishing micro movements happening to support this. And within each of those are limitless possibility and limitless potential to cultivate what starts small and make it bigger. It is within these moments of pause that we can cultivate and hone our skills of observation of our bodies and the systems that reside both within and outside of our bodies that contribute to our survival, our health, restoration, and regeneration. And it's this suspension of conscious hyperactivity that can create moments of infinite possibility that shape our imaginations and stoke the actions that we take. So ask yourself, how am I standing in this historical moment? And the knowledge that you glean from that embodied discourse can inform the ways in which you are called to move in the broader world. Slowly coming back to your breath on your next inhale, filling your belly, filling your ribs. On your exhale, opening of your eyes if they're closed, slowly bending your knees, and coming back to the group space. And I'll pass it to Clara now. Thank you.
Now that we're feeling grounded in our bodies, today I will play some music for you, which I call clinically designed improvisatory music. And I'm going to share my screen briefly. Clinically designed improvisatory music, there it is. I call it CDIM for short. And it was designed and developed at the Northwestern Music and Medicine Program for patients who, well, it was to help patients with their stress and anxiety they experienced due to the pandemic restrictions of isolation when they were hospitalized. CDIM is improvisatory and it meanders. There are two unusual and defining features of CDIM. The first is the volume change, the change in volume. The second is silence. The volume goes from a medium volume and diminishes to nothing. And then there are about 8 to 10 seconds of silence. We'll share another screen. We tested CDIM music, clinical music, on some patients in the epilepsy monitoring unit, and they were hooked up to EEGs, and they experienced 40 minutes of CDIM music. And I hope you can see my cursor. The first one is the pre-clinical music brain. And as you can see, it's hot. It's a hot brain. There's a lot going on. And as we go to the second brain from the left, it's the first 20 minutes of CDIM music. And what's happening here in the kind of occipital lobe and the frontal lobe is it's really cooling down. The same thing is happening even more in the second 20 minutes here. If you look, even the auditory, this is the auditory cortex here. Here you see it's really, really red, pre-intervention. Here it's really kind of orangey, getting yellow on this side. It's all calming down. Even the parts that are really active are still kind of changing. And here it's like about an hour, the rightmost brain map, it's about an hour after the music is done. You can see it's kind of regaining characteristics of the first brain, but it's really not the same. And we're really excited about these results. At the same time, we have a lot of testing and a lot of research remaining that we have to do to understand what's going on with the music and with the brains. We theorize that the change in volume in the music, and you'll experience this, the diminishing of volume to nothing. We theorize that the silence is an integral part of the brain, either reorganizing or kind of cleaning itself or re-networking itself. And we aim to do some fMRI studies to see what's going on. But going back to the description of CDEM, in terms of rhythms and tempi, the speed of music is generally slow. There are no fast rhythms or complicated rhythms, and the pitch range is limited to a range that the brain considers to be safe. And as a philosopher also, I ponder the question, what is safety? And I think this is a really important question because I think no matter what field we are in, we are all asking the question, what is a just society? And I think one aspect that is integral to the just society is that people are safe with each other. However, in our deeply traumatized and divided society, how do we know what safety is? It is my hope that through this experimental clinical music, we can maybe grasp at physical feelings of safety. Since our thoughts emerge from our bodily states, I think the feeling of physical and emotional safety is something I want to comprehend in a profoundly concrete way. The implication is that CDEM has something to do with this feeling of safety. In preparation for CDEM, I would like for you to get as comfortable as possible. I will play for you. You can turn your camera off if that makes you super comfortable. You may lie down, sit, you can recline, whatever position makes you most comfortable. Some reactions that people experience during CDEM, some feel sleepy or experience that feeling you get right before you sleep, but not quite asleep. Other people feel their bodies acutely. Suddenly they feel their aches and pains, their stress spots, like their temples or their stomachs. Some people feel like they're floating in a lake or flying in the air. Because of the interaction between the auditory and visual cortices, some people have waking dreams and experience vivid visual imagery. Some people cry because they feel safe to cry and feel their grief in a welcome way. And I love it when people experience CDEM as kind of this safe container that you can put stuff in. A few people do experience adverse reactions such as increased anxiety, unwelcome grief, and increased stress. So if you feel this way, feel free to mute me until the CDEM part is over. Now I'll start playing in a moment, so please get comfortable and take a deep breath.
Thank you, Clara. That was beautiful. Everyone, just take a moment to come back into the group space. I'll give you a little bit of time to transition from your rest space. So we have one more movement segment in our session. Clara and I were really interested in experimenting with what happens when she plays a minute of Siddham and we move at the same time. So we'll use some of the same kind of prompts of lead with your head, lead with your hips, lead with your feet as she plays. So she'll play, I'll give you the prompt and then she'll play about a minute of Siddham and we'll move. And during the pause, I'll give you the next prompt. So let's begin. Move my chair out of the way. Okay, so in this first set of movements, I want you to lead the movement with your hands, whatever that means to you. And leading the next movement with your hips. Good, and leading the next movement with your feet. And leading the last movement with your head. And taking a deep breath in. Exhaling audibly. One more big breath in. Big sigh out. Let that shit go. And coming back to the group space. Thank you, everyone. We do have like a little kind of like 2 or 3 questions that we would love to get your feedback on. I just put, yes, Justin, you can go take a nap. I just put the link to it in the chat for folks on Zoom, in-person people. The questions are basically, if you want to just have the assembly host put your responses in the chat. I'll put the questions in the chat so you can see too. What sensations do you feel in your body? And do you feel differently than when you first arrived? And if so, just please describe.
Does anybody want to kind of sit on the edge of the stage so Marina can see you and talk to her?
Oh,
Here comes people, Marina.
Okay. Hi, people.
So I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 12 of us in here.
we can just scoot.
Anywhere, just so she can see some faces.
No, I was just looking at this.
You just stay where you are and then everyone scoots in.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
If people on Zoom want to start filling out the Google form, you're welcome to. If you want to just, we have time to have a group reflection and conversation. If that feels like that's what we want to do now, let's go ahead and do that.
We're not any questions. We should be thinking.
Yes. Yes, thank you. So what sensations do you feel in your body? And then also, do you feel differently than when you first arrived? And if so, what are some of your observations?
Oh, you're all looking at me like I'm going to answer them. Okay. I do have an answer. I feel like a noise, like an internal noise has been removed for me. Like, and I don't mean that as talking or brain activity, but just like a sense of being like wired and kind of tied in knots. And I feel like there's a more of a clarity and clearness in my system.
Thinking about the brain and temperature, I had a similar feeling of just release of an internal heightenedness.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't stop thinking about that image of physically cooling your brain. And I really kind of kept internalized that.
Yeah, I felt like there was cool liquid all around my brain. My brain was just like surrounded by this like just soft, cool jelly liquid.
I experienced some of the visuals that was mentioned before. And then I had a bout of like sadness, and then it released. And then I just felt like I could sleep forever, which feels really good to release that anxiety. So.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. Anyone from Zoom world want to chime in? It's okay if not.
I was kind of reflecting on yesterday, we were around a bunch of children all day, and it was a lot of like commotion and more of a busy day. And I was just kind of reflecting on like my gratitude for like having this opportunity to be a part of this like conference, and like in the middle of the day too, where it's usually like something I would do at the end of the day or like at the beginning of the day. So I just appreciated the opportunity the invitation to rest. It's a great name for it as well. And I think it's okay. I think the whole time I was my brain went to a place of like gratitude and like almost admiration.
That's so lovely. Thank you. Yeah, Vida, I see you.
Yes, I noticed just a general overall softening of like my muscles, just like letting go. I was expecting more of an emotional response, but it wasn't. And what was really curious to me that I don't think I've experienced before with movement, when I'm moving, I oftentimes am exploring like a theme or like something that's wanting to come through me, an impulse. And with the Sita music, I noticed just a sense of being, just like more sensation oriented, a sense of ease. And so that was different and nice. So thank you.
Thank you. That's so cool. It got me thinking too. I was like, wow, what was that? What was my state when I was moving?
That was a really interesting observation because we think that this music flows through certain brain networks. One is the salience, the attention network, and the reward. And one, they flow through, like these networks go through the insula, and that's where you are able to. Music goes also through the insula. It's where you're able to feel your body more, and that's kind of something I'm very interested in because without feeling our own bodies, we can't imagine things. We can't imagine the other person. We can't imagine ourselves. And so in that whole realm of imagination, we have ethics, we have conscience, we have care. So just something I'm thinking about as a scientist.
Clara, can I ask you a question?
Yes. Yes.
What made you want to apply your instrument to the brain in this way, to this kind of experience?
Oh, wow. Where do I start with that one?
I know that's big as you.
That definitely, that question really digs very deep at my family history, where my family just had a lot of adverse experiences born in war, and as a result, my father had persistent bouts of psychosis, and the only thing that could calm him was music and put him together. And so I have an association with music as something that can integrate the mind, and I really wish to see if I can develop clinical music for all sorts of modern day situations that plague, what divide us. So it's really a lot about my father.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jane.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having us here. This was very, very cool. I am into somatic therapy and the physiological basis of this safety that you're talking about, especially interpersonal safety. And that's so interesting what you said about your dad. Because when I was listening to the music, mostly it felt a lot like empathy, like the same physical experience that I have when I get the sense that somebody else understands my emotional state or can hold it for me. And yet, when you talk about interpersonal safety, the challenge is so many people have had interpersonal trauma and can't feel safe with other people. So in that sense, like this music is a way to create that experience without the trigger of another person trying to interact with you, basically. So yeah, it's very cool, very curious, a lot of questions, but yeah, thank you for both for your inquiry and for sharing.
Thank you.
So I think we're at time to allow for transition to the next session. But I just want to, thank you everyone so much for being here and participating and your openness for sharing. I just want to also say thank you so much to Clara for being a partner in this collaboration. And I'm really excited for future collabs and thinking and just nerding out about all things brain. And also thank you to Lisa Jarrett and Harold Fletcher, who are the Art and Social Practice Program co-directors, for their mentorship and helping to create this space. Also Emma Dior, I don't know how to say that name, Mitchell, my fellow classmates, the KS MoCA artists, for all of the labor and energy that's gone into putting on Assembly this year. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you all get to take a chance to rest and maybe enjoy some other of the Assembly offerings today. Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us for an invitation to rest. We hope you enjoyed the session. If you're interested in learning more about this work, please feel free to reach out to Marina at connectivesomatics@gmail.com or follow at connectivesomatics on Instagram. Our next event is a hybrid session, both online and in person, where Laura Glazer and Miss Melody Adams will have a conversation and share a presentation. Their offering is called I Want Everyone to Know with Miss Melody Adams.